morning. I'd like to welcome everyone here. Especially see Sarah here. The Dillers have been sick, it seems like the last week or so, and everybody but Sarah. So the mainstay going on, they've got company. Glad to see y'all this week. And I'm going to make an announcement here. I have retired from the police department. I haven't officially noticed it, but in case you know that. And the reason I say that, I didn't think anybody would notice, but I did 22 in the Army and 25 with the police department. So I've been working for 47 years and never was able to let my hair grow long or grow a beard. So I told Sweetness, can I do that? And she blessed off on it. And I didn't think anybody else would really notice. Well, the last couple of weeks, people have noticed. So that's a man thing. You know, you don't think that the clothing or whatever that you wear, I know you're not wearing that shirt with that. Or them shoes. Nobody looks at shoes. Well, guys, and that's sort of what we're going to delve into this morning. And for those, just a reminder, we're talking about, can I be in the American Army or in the American military and still be in the Lord's Army? We've progressed. We're going to tell a Bible story, and this is what's great about Bible study, is you can study one thing and verses can lead you somewhere else. We are going to talk about Uriah the Hittite. We was briefly introduced to Uriah last week through King David. And what do you know about Uriah from what we talked about? What's his claim to fame? Bathsheba's husband. All right, that's what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to talk about, well, what does this have to do with God's army and stuff? Because we're going to read about an army, and we're going to read about some of those political influences that happened way back 3,000 years ago, but do they still happen today? So when you read stuff, did that happen? Wait a minute, that's why maybe that explains stuff. And you'll see that. And then I've got Uriah the Hittite, a man thing. There's going to be something that people do that he does, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. And I'm hoping all that makes sense. And I do appreciate your comments from this Bible study. And it is a Bible study where you stay on one topic, but you read a verse, and all of a sudden it takes you somewhere else. And that's what we're going to do today. So let's go to 2 Samuel, chapter 11. But we're going to start in verses 1 through 5. Because as I read that, and I said, well, you know what, we're going to touch on this. 2 Samuel chapter 11, we're going to start in verse 1. It happened in the spring of the year, at the time when kings go out to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him and all Israel, and they destroyed the people of Ammon and besieged Rabbah. But David remained at Jerusalem. Okay, who cares? Couple points I want to make about the army and things. The first line, it says it happened in the spring of the year at the time when kings go out to battle. Why do kings go out to battle in the spring? Or at least back in the olden times. Huh? Why can't you do it in the winter or in the fall? Okay. Okay. Weather conditions. All right, Dan, what? Better weather? All right. What was the big deal, if you remember, in World War II when the Germans went into Russia? Who had problems with the weather? The Germans did. Because Russia sucked them in. They knew winter was coming, and if you're not familiar with the weather of where you're going to fight, you've got problems. I don't think anybody here fought in the Korean War? Your father? When they sent the soldiers into the Korean War and they sent them over in ships and stuff, it was summertime, spring. They didn't realize it was going to last a year, 2 years. Were they properly dressed and equipped for the battle of a Korean winter? Paul, you're saying no. You've probably been over there. Does it get cold in Korea? I've been there twice. It gets cold in Korea. I'm sorry?
I said, you don't remember the stories John used to tell about that?
I do, but I was hoping somebody else would tell us so that I don't do it. I'm doing all the. No, no, you do it. I forget now.
He just talked about how when they weren't prepared for the cold weather, how cold it was, and how he nearly froze to death.
Yeah, and those are true statements. Revolutionary or Civil War, dysentery and trench foot and all that other stuff, it wasn't being killed by the enemy. It was all this other extracurricular stuff. And over in the Middle East, when we have summer, they're having winter. When we're having winter, they're having summer. All right. So it's that when kings go out to battle and all Israel, and he sent Joab and his servants with him and all Israel. Back in those times, who was in the army?
Men 20 and up.
Men 20 and up. Did they have a standing army like we do? No, they didn't. All right, when he says all Israel, that means springtime, you either get ready to go, we're getting ready to plant, let's go to war, do something, and come back in 30, 60 days so that we can go back and plant. All right, when you watch these old movies like in Frankenstein, when they go up and they want to go kill Dr. Frankenstein, and you see all the people, what kind of weapons do they have? Pitchforks and sickles, because an army, and that's the same thing with it. When they came to get the army, that's what they had. They had guards and stuff like that, guards for King David and stuff like that. But as far as the big armies, that's why the Roman legions sometimes had such an easy time going through conquering people, because they really had no standing armies. You say, come on, well, all I got is my pitchfork. Well, bring your pitchfork, because I don't have a sword for you. So if she gets killed, you can have her sword. That's how they did that stuff back in those days. All right? Not a very happy or good way of life, but that's what we read about. This last sentence in chapter 1. But David remained at Jerusalem. Is that a big deal for the king to be at home when everybody else is out to war? Probably never thought about it, but being military, it makes a huge difference. When you've probably got, well, let's say for the sake, you've got school teachers. Do you ever see the principals or do you ever see the superintendent? I'm saying it positively, that smile on our faces, because I don't know what school district. Now, the only time you see the superintendent is on TV when he's at one of these galas. They never walk through the schools to see why the desks are broke or the equipment is broke. Or when I was at Fort Benning at the Airborne School, I was the first sergeant at one of the companies there. Excuse me. And we were at the bottom end of funding for maintenance and stuff. We was just doing whatever it was. We was pushing out 800 soldiers every 3 weeks for the school. And we were going through doing an inspection. I was the first sergeant and a platoon sergeant. And he was platoon sergeant, the bed wasn't made. He was throwing stuff out in the hallway. This is pieces of junk. And he, of course, he used a little bit more colorful. And I said, man, that really wasn't my style, but I didn't have a problem with it. So he's throwing that stuff out. And then we hear this at ease, which means usually it's somebody high ranking, like a sergeant major or something. We didn't think anything about it because we were inspecting. And the guy comes up on the second floor, and I look down there. He says, what are y'all doing? I said, who are you? And ended up being the brigade sergeant major. He says, well, who are you? And I said, I'm first. Oh, come on. What are y'all doing? I said, we're inspecting. And so he went and he checked the air filters. We hadn't changed air filters in 8 months, 9 months, a year. How come you didn't do that? We ain't got the funding for it. But since you're here, maybe you can help us. Well, when I was in Special Forces and when I was in the Ranger Battalion, we snapped our fingers and we got it. And I said, we're not in a Ranger Battalion. I could get whatever I wanted, whatever equipment. I said, Sergeant Major, we are not in a Ranger Battalion. I can't even get air filters. Well, I'll take care of that. 2 months later, nothing. We're inspecting again. And doggone if he doesn't come up in another one of those. First sergeant, I said, Sergeant Major, did you bring those air filters? Oh, he couldn't get what he was trying to do. So what I'm saying is, you try to lead by example, which we were trying to do. So we were the only company that got a passing inspection when he came through 4 poor companies because we were actually doing supposedly what we were supposed to be doing. But does it mean a lot, or does it mean something if the king stays back in the rear safe? Becky?
In World War II, Daddy was under
Patton?
and he said he got out there with them. He traveled with them.
And what did that do for the morale of the soldiers when you see the movie Patton?
He was hard.
Now, Patton got in trouble too. I said Patton got in trouble because he was out visiting the hospitals and stuff like that. But people want to see a leader out there with them. If I'm suffering, you need to be suffering. That's the mindset, and that's morale. And you have to have a mindset for these guys at the bottom, which we're going to talk about as we move into this story, to be able to do what they do. Can you get in trouble if you're back and all the soldiers are gone? All the men are gone? All the husbands are gone? And you the king, and you can do what you want. All right, let's read on.
That's what makes a good leader, though.
It is. And why do you say that? Now, let me just say this. Don't be afraid to say something. You can throw something out, but I may, like Becky, I may say, hey, if you don't have anything, just go ahead. But I want to hear y'all talk. One of the purposes of this is to hear other people talk besides me.
Well, you kind of follow by example. You know, you learn by example. I mean, if your leader's like a principal in a cafeteria, if he cleans up somebody's throw up or a spilled tray or something like that, you appreciate that. You know he's not afraid to do the work, so you work harder.
Okay? Because the people above you are doing it. It goes with the flow, and that's right. Then it happened one evening, verse 2, that Jesus arose from his bed and walked on the roof of the king's house. And where was he walking at? On the roof. And from the roof he saw a woman bathing, and the woman was very beautiful to behold. So David sent and inquired about the woman, and someone said, is this not Bathsheba, the daughter of Elam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite? That's just a recurring theme here. Then David sent messengers, took her, and she came. He lay with her, but she was cleansed for impurity, and she returned to her house. And the woman conceived, so she sent and told David and said, I am with child. Very quickly on that, we're not going to get into the adultery part of it, but we're going to get into why was David up on the rooftop? And how did he see Bathsheba? All right, just something to think about. If he's in the king's palace, who do you think lived around the king's palace? Big time people. Uriah hit one of his mighty men. Not just anybody. I couldn't probably live there because I don't have, it's like living in Harris County. I can't live in Harris County because I don't make enough money because I'm here in Columbus. So, you go up there and you've got, so Uriah the Hittite is way up there because he's got a house around the kingdom. Now, how did he see Bathsheba? He was on the roof. Where do you think Bathsheba was? On the roof. In those days, those houses, that was waste. They don't have to slant their roofs because it hardly ever rained. So that was wasted space. So you could go up on the top floor, and that's where you did stuff out of the sight of everybody else, because if you had to look up and you got a little wall, you can't see unless you're the king and you can see down. And that's really, okay, so she's pregnant. Now then, David's got a problem, doesn't he? All right, let's read in verse 6. Then David sent to Joab, saying, send me Uriah the Hittite. And Joab sent Uriah to David. When Uriah had come to him, David asked how Joab was doing, and how the people were doing, and how the war prospered. Is that why David asked to see Uriah? So why is he asking all this other stuff? He's got to leave a smoke trail, right? He's got to say, hey, I don't want to take Joab. He's the commander. You're one of my, Uriah, you're one of my mighty men. Let's come on in here and let me say what's going on and you tell me. So he's laying down a smoke screen so if anybody asks, they don't know anything about Bathsheba. All right? I want to know what's going on at the war. In verse 8, and David said to Uriah, go down to your house and wash your feet. So Uriah departed from the king's house, and a gift of food from the king followed him. So why did David say to Uriah, go to your house? So he can get with his wife and visit. Let's read what happens though. But Uriah slept at the door of the king's house with all the servants of his lord and did not go down to his house. So when they told David, saying, Uriah did not go to his house, David said to Uriah, did you not come from a journey? Why did you not go down to your house? And let's read what his answer is. Verse 11, and Uriah said to David, the ark and Israel and Judah are dwelling in tents, and my lord Joab and the servants of my lord are encamped in the open fields. Shall I then go to my house to eat and drink and to lie with my wife? As you live and as your soul lives, I will not do this thing. And then verse 12, then David said to Uriah, wait here today, so you don't have to go back. Stay here another day, and tomorrow I will let you go. So Uriah, so he's hoping to get Uriah to go back to his house again. So Uriah remained in Jerusalem that day and the next. Now when David called him, he ate and drank before him, and he made him drunk. I wonder why he made him drunk. And at evening he went out to lie on his bed with the servants of his Lord, but he did not go down to his house. So my question is, are men and women different? I mean, in today's society, you don't know, but are they different? Okay. Men went to war, women didn't. Can we go to war today? Whether or not you agree with it or not or whatever, times have changed, we've evolved with what. So, but this is a question that Uriah had or did, and it happens today. Why didn't Uriah go home to his family?
Well, he said why he didn't, and that was really what David should have said. He did what David should have done.
No, you're right, and that's where I'm getting to. David didn't. He got kind of lackadaisical in his leadership. He forgot that I've done what I've had to do, and that's what he got in trouble with David. Because remember, we read last week that Saul has killed his thousands, and David killed his tens of thousands. It's like hunting. You can't kill a deer. If you're in the hunting lodge, you got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, get out there in that tree stand, and get out there and climb. I say, Michael, where you at? I'm still at home. You can't get a deer, all right? You can't go to war and kill tens of, and that's not, but to get deeds or whatever. But why today do men do things and react differently than women? Is what Uriah did 3,000 years ago unique to what men do today? In this aspect, huh? Why do men in war throw themselves on grenades? Huh? To save somebody. They got a wife and 3 kids at home. All right, we're getting there. We're getting there. They're comrades. But you got a wife and 3 kids at home. Sir?
Because they're probably just like the people that served and they were trained, they were committed and honorable and committed to the duty of their task and what their masters told them they were going to, move into this land, and we're going to have bountiful crops, and we're going to have this and that. So they were committed to the cause.
They were committed to the cause? I'm sorry?
What he did was for his wife and kids.
But why did he do it?
He was a leader, and all the troops were watching him. And he had a loyalty to those men that he led, and they had life and
Didn't he have a loyalty to his wife and kids?
Yes, he did. I mean, that he did what he
Okay, and this is part of the Bible. And when you see, oh, here he goes, I'm not saying something because he's doing battle. No, I'm trying to draw out in Bible study, this is a story that we read 3,000 years ago. It doesn't affect me today. Well, no, I'm trying to make it where this story does affect us today. And you was at Fort Bragg and met with people. So I'm sorry, go ahead and keep going. So,
when we went to Fort Bragg, I didn't understand anything.
you didn't understand? Okay, and that's one point I'm trying to make. She's a civilian.
And I asked one of the soldiers, I said, why do you want to go out
Okay.
And so that, you know, he had trained to do that. It was
That was his profession. Whether some people agree or disagree, same thing with the teacher. Some people, I could never go in and teach them.
But he was committed to his, not only the country, but to his family.
Okay.
His family. He saw his family, the country, as an extension of his
Okay. The country, God, was it God, family, country? Something like that. Andrew?
I don't know, I'm not a woman, so I don't know if they share the same aspect of it, but there's something about brotherhood that is grown through the test of hardship and combat and just growing up together, that bond is more powerful than family. That becomes closer to family. And there's something there that you would, at times, I know certain people who would jump in front of a bullet to save their best friend, probably more so than some others. And it's not something that could really be necessarily explained. It's just, there's something that happens in that connection and that relationship that happens through all that adversity and everything else. And that's part of training camp and growing up together and everything, where that bond is unbreakable.
Okay. And it's adversity. And you're right. That's one of the key. Yes, ma'am.
I think men often feel the need to protect everyone. I think even the animal species,
You men are animals? No, you're right. Go ahead. Donna's smiling. She's shaking her head.
male animals will protect at all costs for anything and everything. They will fight. Whereas females will often only fight for their young. So they will battle when you are out to get just their own. Whereas males will often protect as a general.
Okay.
I feel like maybe men hold work as more important sometimes.
Men, oh, well, and here we go. We're getting into real world. And I'm glad you said that, Wendy. And I'm glad you said what you did. Are men and women different? Women don't mess with the kids. Mess with my husband, don't mess with my kids. But does work sometimes take over family? And that's where we get into sometimes, and I'm going to make it a male-female thing. I don't know where I want to go with this, but you're exactly right, and that's the point I'm trying to make. In the military, if you've been a drill sergeant, you work 7 days a week, you go in at 4 o'clock in the morning, and you get off at 2 o'clock that next morning, and got to be back in for 2 years, and you've got other drill sergeants so you can rotate. Is that hard on a family? Spouses take a big hit. But getting back to, I'm going to try to be pro. If a spouse is taking a lot of time, they're trying to do at work, trying to make sure they're doing the best thing, trying to make money and provide for the family, sometimes is it at the expense of the family? But they trying to. Do the men think they doing anything wrong? Man, Donna, that was pretty quick. No, and this is where we're trying to get in male, female, husband, wife relationships and try to make this story apply to us, not just the Uriah and Bathsheba. It's more than that. And that's what I'm trying to bring out. So we're on that road to can I be in the Army, but how that road can be difficult and people want to do good for the family, which would be the military family, which is what we're talking about. Is there anything necessarily wrong with that? When you go to Afghanistan, where does your head have to be? It has to be in Afghanistan. It can't be back home, although it is back home. When I'm deployed, did I think of Cindy and the boys?
I think probably that was when you had some time to go, because when you're at war, you have to keep your mind on those people trying to kill you.
There is a mindset. You have, because you have to be where you're at that particular time. because they're going to try to kill you. Now, the problem with being a Raymond,
war does not stop when you gotta be full-time warriors to stay alive.
how can you be and this is where we get into this, can I be in God's army? How can I be a full-time soldier with that mindset and still have a family and still be a Christian? Is it a hard balancing act? I'm telling you, it is. But when you go over there, I'm a first sergeant, and I've got 180 guys that we're getting ready to go do something. If I'm not doing what I'm doing, setting the example, carrying the same 80-pound rucksack that they're carrying, and when we stop for a break, do you think I sat down and took a break? No. How long, if you've got 180 people and they're on both sides of the road, how far do you think that file is stretched? It's a way, and they're sitting down and they're dying. Now, I'm carrying a light rucksack at 80 pounds, and my feet are bleeding, and we've walked 20 some odd miles. You doing all right? You doing all right? Make sure you're drinking water. What am I doing? Checking on the guys. You doing all right? I'm not sitting home in the barracks, that's right. I'm not taking a break. Now, y'all ain't realizing that I'm not taking a break. All y'all know is, you better listen to your sergeant over there. Andrew, you awake? Put that phone away. We didn't have phones back at that time. So then we get up and we walk 45 minutes. What am I doing? That's what leaders, because people are expecting you. Where's the first sergeant? Oh, he's back there in the Humvee. He ain't carrying nothing. Do you see the difference, sir? That's right.
You're being, like you said, if you're sitting down with your pack on, I'm gonna sit down, Fred, sit down. If you got yours on, say, hey, Fred, you told his pack, I'm gonna go tote mine too.
You should. And then when that guy starts falling out because he's weak, and I grab that M60 machine gun, y'all know what a machine gun, that thing that Rambo shot there at the end, them things is heavy. Well, they're not heavy when you start the road march. At 20 miles, they're extremely heavy. So I take that machine gun and I strap it on, and I'm dying. Why are you walking so slow? Shut up, because you better hope that I don't pass you. So you see how encouragement can go. Remember, let's take some biblical application. King David, remember when David and Saul, when they were chased, when Saul was trying to kill David, and they were hiding, and David said, hey, if only I could have a drink of water from, was it Jerusalem, Rabbi Richard, or the spring? Inside the city where he couldn't go, and some men snuck in and got it. And what did David do with that water when they brought it back? Why did he pour it out? As a tribute. Plus, nobody else got any of it. And another story, y'all know Alexander the Great? Do you remember the story or a famous painting that they're in the middle of the desert? And everybody's dying of thirst, and they got some water together, and they gave it to Alexander, and it's a little bitty cup. And what did you remember what Alexander did with that water? He poured it out in front of everybody. And why did he do that? If you read the story, I'm not going to drink until my man can drink. So that's leadership. That's why they followed Alexander the Great to all these other places and didn't come home for 3 or 4 years.
Fred, there's a little quip I remember many years ago. I don't know if it was about the coaching. I think it was, but the quip was, and it might have been about the coach. The strength of the group is in the strength of the leader.
That's right.
So I mean, that's
The strength of the group is the strength of the leader. If you've got somebody that's lackadaisical, what do you think the troops are going to be? Ma'am, Miss Miller?
Well, you look at Jesus, he was the ultimate servant leader. I mean, you know, James and John were fussing, and over who's gonna be the boss, and Jesus is washing feet. You know,
that servant leadership that we hear about today.
And to me, men follow. She was talking about MacArthur. And men follow him. Why did they follow him? You know, why? I think people saw a servant leader there. And, my dad saw him too.
Okay.
And he told me, he said he was walking along beside us, and he was not in the Jeep, he was walking, and with us talking to the guys that were out there walking around.
Now, when you're doing that, and if you've ever been in that situation, it's like a principal walking through and talking to all your teachers. Don't get called to the principal. I haven't talked to the principal in all year. Now I got to talk to her because what did I do wrong? All right? Let's put it in practical situations, which Wendy said. Can your job get in the way of your family? Does that cause problems? Let's keep it real. It can, and it does. All right, and that's what I'm trying to, and I'm not going to justify or excuse, but each situation is different. But when you're in the military and you deployed somewhere, it's hard. And when I've got 180 guys and I've got to keep them focused, and then 2 wives send letters saying, that's when they used to send letters, hey, I want a divorce. What does that do for the morale of the soldier when he's deployed? Oh my goodness, I can't tell you what it does. And wives would call me, and I'd say, and whether I was right, wrong, or indifferent, but we had a mission to go on, and you know, I said, you can do what you want to, but as soon as you do, you're going to destabilize this guy. I've got to deal with it because I can't send him home.
You know, I don't think it's right for a wife to do that to her husband.
Well, she says it's not right for a wife to do that to her husband, but let's put it over. We're talking about the man here, and the man is always right? Donna? We have to put ourselves in the shoes of the wife or the spouse. When these guys are off and those are the heroes coming back, the spouse is the one taking care of the kids. Who's taking care of those wounded warriors when you see them come home? Mm-hmm. All right, so we can't neglect what the wives, I feel what the wives are saying, but I've got a mission to do. On Korea, I'm on 9 months getting ready to rotate, but we're going up to the DMZ. This guy was going to go home, had family problems. He was in the headquarters platoon. He was in the person that took care of the clerical stuff. He told me he wasn't going to the DMZ. We go up there for 90 days. I said, you're going to the DMZ. Oh, I got this, and I'm going. I said, I need you. Everybody is there for a reason. So I walk out. Next thing I know, I hear a shattering of glass. He's laying, and go back in there. He's laying in. Now, this is a 20-something-year-old guy. He's laying on the floor, curled up in a little ball, fetal position, crying, and his hand all cut up. All right, this is what goes on in real life. How do you deal with something like that? Did he go to the DMZ? He sure did. Yeah, Fred, you're hard. Well, I had a job to do. He wasn't going home. Take him to the hospital, bandage him up. You can type with one hand. I got a job to do because if you, unfortunately on this military side, if you let one, what happens? I had 2 guys, and I hate, but I'm trying to give you real world. And all these stories are of Korea because that's usually where my most problems were, but at the same time, my most successes were too. 2 guys, when I got there, was out drinking. They're 18 or 19. They've gotten in trouble. They're doing this, and I'd been there a month and said, what are they doing? They're getting ready to get chaptered out. They'd been in 6 months, 8 months, however long to be, go through training, go to Korea for 6 months. Or I guess they'd been there 3 months by the time I got there. And I said, what do they do? They said, well, they don't want to be here anymore, plus they were drunk, and they kept getting in trouble. And so find out their parents were calling, and the captain, we were talking about it, and he said, one said that he had messed his leg up and he was getting put out because of medical. His leg was messed up, but that wasn't why he was being put out. And the other one, I can't remember. And I thought about it, and this was when my youngest son had to have open heart surgery. And right before I left, I put in to get out. I'd already been to Korea once. And the Army said, well, what can you do that your wife can't do when you're deployed? I said, I don't know. My son's never had open heart surgery before. I can't tell you that. So did I end up going to Korea? Yeah. Did I want to be there? No. Did I have a job to do? Yes. So I pulled these guys in, and we had this heart-to-heart, and they said, we're going home by the end of this month. I said, you know what? Do you want to be here? No. And I said, guess what? I don't want to be here either. But guess what y'all aren't going to do at the end of the month? What, First Sergeant? You ain't going home. You're going to do 12 months. I'll call your family. Don't worry about that. And called their parents. Said, hey, this is why your son, whatever he told you, this is what's happening to both of them. They ain't coming home. So we did that, called them back in. I said, stop the chapter. They come back in, and I said, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. You can accept that you're going to be here for 9 more months, and you can soldier, or we can have problems, and we'll go home together because I don't want to be here any more than you want to be here. What do you think happened to those two guys? They ended up being the best soldiers in the company. It was unbelievable. I couldn't promote them because they had messed up so much, because it haunted them. But I did promote them at the last month because they deserved it. They had come. But you're in leadership. You've got to make decisions at the time, and it is a mindset. Y'all seen the movie Con Air with what's his name in it? Yeah, okay. And all that guy, he's done prison because he was defending his wife on something, and then he got in prison for a while. He's going home, and he's got to take this airplane with hardened criminals, and he gets a chance to get off, but he doesn't get off. Do you remember why he didn't get off? There was a friend that was on there that needed some insulin that wasn't going to get it, and there was a female guard that they were going to do things. And he said, can't do it. So he stayed on. And then in the movie, they talk about when they get to his wife, they said, how come he didn't get off the plane? Do you remember what she said? If you even remember the movie? More or less, it was his brotherhood thing. Evidently, somebody's in trouble, and he needed to stay. That's what we're talking about with Uriah. Uriah didn't go home because his soldiers were out there. You see it says in the fields. Doesn't it say the open fields are in the fields? Did everybody have tents back in those days?
Did Bathsheba know he was in town?
Do what?
Did Bathsheba know?
That's a good question. Did Bathsheba know he was back?
And if so, did she not make also a sacrifice?
Well, when you say did Bathsheba make her sacrifice, what are you talking about? What kind of sacrifice are you talking about?
Well, if she knew he was in town and wouldn't come home, she might sacrifice too for the soldiers.
That's a good question. I think that Bathsheba initially didn't know he came home because David was trying to keep him. Huh? That's what you get in trouble for thinking. Then you got to try to answer your own questions. But see, that's what Bible study does. If you're studying it, you get into these. If you try to make it into your real world November 9th, 2025 in Columbus, Georgia, if you try to apply some of these things, it doesn't apply to me. Well, a lot of times it does. So why didn't Uriah go home? Did he have a sense of duty at the expense of his wife? Sense of honor at the sense of his wife? Or was it at the cost of his wife? Do you think maybe she had that same mindset? Just throwing a question out there. You know, when you watch these, and we'll close up, when you watch these movies, you watch the movie 300, I say that again, you know, Spartans, that was a true story with Xerxes. We talked about Xerxes or Anna, whatever his name was, Anaxagoras or whatever. And when Leonidas goes to leave, there's something about his shield. Do you remember what she said about the shield? Huh? Yeah, carry your shield home or be carried dead on it. Why would she say that?
She understood the military life.
She understood the military life. That was their life. You couldn't run or surrender or anything like that. That was dishonor. You either were victorious and brought your shield home, or you were dead because you were trying to be victorious. Is that a specific mindset? Is that an easy mindset? That's a military mindset, or hopefully if you're going to go over there and deploy. So can you see how, and hopefully I'm trying to make the point, how serving in the military is different than other jobs. But again, to Wendy's point, can your regular non-military job get in the way? So where is your loyalty? Is it your loyalty to serving in the military? Is your loyalty your civilian job? Or is your loyalty to home?
Your civilian job.
Your civilian job?
Because, I mean, you have to still work and provide, and, you know, the company is counting on you, and usually it's not every day, it's maybe something came up and happened that they need you that day,
Okay.
and then you
But
compromise.
you compromise, hopefully. But when you compromise, here's the thing, men and women, husbands and wives. Do you talk about that compromise? Or do you, in my head, Cindy's supposed to know that. And I never said a word to her. We're supposed to compromise, but I didn't talk to her. Communication. You got to talk. That's right. We were out of time. Thank you. Y'all say good. But I appreciate everybody's comments and attention. And we'll follow up and get out of this next week. Thank you.